Welcome back, and we have Clay Crossan here. Clay, I wanted to go over a couple of things that have happened since the weekend. I've been, of course, most people know I'm working on things or doing consults or research or contacting guests 7 days a week, but I do get time off. We had an excellent Mother's Day dinner yesterday at the Benihana, and we had some good fun times. A couple of things one of the presents I gave Michelle was did it myself. I set up the Google group, so she now has a blog and forum. So,
fantastic!
Yeah, and that means people can connect with each other and about all kinds of issues. And she wants to invite you to new articles. If you go to the affiliates, if you go to the associates page, you'll see a picture of myself and Michelle. Then you'll see Carrot Bars and Carrot Bar Vision. Then below that, you'll see a thing called FDG. It says Focus Group Discussion. That is the blog and the forum. If you hit that button, it'll take you over to Deagle Network. There also is a direct link to the Google groups where we have it by invitation only. It's not open to the public. It's only to customers, and it has to go through the gatekeeper of Michelle. Once you're inside the gate, though, we can communicate with each other so people can start kind of finding people that are in their local area, their country, or state, or whatever, and communicating about issues and raising issues that they want to discuss. It's a way of our people within Nutrimedical to network, and on many issues, whether it's health or geopolitics or preparing or whatever. I want to go over some of the buttons on Listen Live first for just a minute. First button is Listen on Showcast. Second is the archives and podcasts. And do sign up for the podcast because you're going to notice we're on every podcast registry in the world now. The third button is to listen to the show at the Xeno Radio number is 605-562-5111. I'm working on trying to get what's called a loop, which means we'll have a number just for my show, and I'll be doing that independently so that people will be able to dial that phone number and listen to the show 24/7, which means it'll rebroadcast it 8 times a day. The next is called Vimeo HD channels. All my channels over in Vimeo, and I think there's altogether 13 channels are there, plus pay-per-view videos, which are medical wellness conditions and many other topics and interviews, including the Roger Stone interview. They're available there on both the HD channels and the pay-per-view video channel. Live stream live stream channels has, I think, right now 8 channels. That's also a live stream video. Those are all available as well and free. The next is Nutrimedical formulas and protocols. The formulas for all different nutraceuticals are fully available. And the products and technology videos are also available in the next button, and then YouTube. Finally, the Vimeo videos that are specifically we call video on demand, there's a separate button for that, and then live stream and YouTube videos. You can sign up, and we will notify you when there's a new live stream or YouTube video. So if we do a conference, and I'm working right now toward the idea of doing multi-point conferences so we can have experts in multiple places, different countries in the world, live or video on demand afterwards, and that'll be archived over on our Vimeo channel. And so we're doing a lot of things. The group, the focus group, and the forum is one of the biggest things, and of course Vimeo. So you want to check it out and sign up both on live stream to be notified when there's a new live show going to happen. Do also go over to during the show, if you want to call in to have a question, stay on topic and tell the board op, Dan, what your question or comment is, and keep it short. The call-in number to call into the show is 800-313-9443. Now, after the show, I do a live stream video recap, and I also have extra videos and special guests. If you're signed up on live stream, you'll get a notification. If you want to make a comment, either write it in or verbally actually call in, you actually sign in and send me your contact request at Nutrimedical1, N-U-T-R-I Medical 1. We don't have a phone number there. That's only for our guests that are calling in to the Nutrimedical One Skype. But you can actually speak, and it will actually go on our video as well. So Nutrimedical One is how you sign in. So, Clay, let's get over to some of the. I would say the best way to look at this is the latest consults, because it's often a good way of finding out if we're on track with what people's needs are. And it's amazing how. In many consults I've had just recently, I plowed through last week. I think I must have done probably around 100 consults in a week. That's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, that's good.
Or pretty close, yeah, a lot.
What were you doing when you were in clinic in Colorado? How many patients were you seeing a week?
Oh no, these are much more. I did way more consults now than I did then. You'd be seeing people on a recurring basis. I'd probably say I do 10 times more consults for doctors and patients now per week than I did when I was in practice. I'll give an example. I want to go through a couple of the issues. Now, the first one is if you have a blocked artery in your heart, this is just a principle. If you're going to reperfuse it or open that artery up and a person's had a heart attack within a few days to weeks, you have to buffer the free radicals, or they get a surge of free radicals after you reopen the artery up. And unfortunately, we had an incident. One of our dear people didn't get buffered before they ended up with their artery reopened. It's called reperfusion injury. When that happens, your mitochondria go crazy. That's an important principle. So we have the nutraceuticals for that. The next is protocols for eye recovery, and we have people with basically senile macular degeneration of their macula, wet or dry macular changes. The first thing is to start off with Vision Max and Melatonin TR, Vein Away, and Cell Defense Plus. We use Omega Supreme Krill, Cell Detox Glutathione, and the ellagic acid. So let's go through this protocol, because it's a very common problem to see both glaucoma, including low-pressure glaucoma. Even though the doctors chase it like a mouse chasing cheese, they chase the idea that intraocular pressure is the only factor causing a loss of vision, when in fact, if you look at a thing called ocular pulsatile amplitude, and again, the research ophthalmologists use this test because the pulsatile amplitude in the capillaries, because that's where the real problem is, the microcirculation to the back of the eye. So let's address this. The melatonin DR is extremely important to protect the eye. It's a major antioxidant. We use it in our hyperbaric chambers in Denver. Vision Max. Let's talk about this. The Vein Away Cell Defense Plus, which is a new breakthrough version to protect the central nervous system in the eye. If you have eye disorders or brain disorders, this is one of the essential things to take. Ellagic acid protects the intimal lining of the blood vessel walls. And the astaxanthin, or Omega Supreme Krill, is 2,000 micrograms versus Mega Reds. And then, of course, we know that singlet oxygen and hydroperoxy radical, cell detox glutathione, will handle that. So this is just what I call the starter protocol. We can add other technologies like lumen photon on setting number 7 for inflammation, setting 3 for regeneration, mild hyperbaric oxygen, and transcranial micropulse therapy. So let's go over Vision Max and Melatonin, Vein Away, etc.
Yeah, great. Vein Away, just really love that for any kind of microcirculation issue. This works even better than any kind of pharmaceutical for that approach, and it's completely safe and effective. The main ingredient is diazepam, a 4-micron particle size, which is the research studied amount. It's been studied and used in Europe for over 25 years. So very, very effective at helping any kind of microcirculation type issues. And if you're looking on the market for a diazepam, don't bother going to any other source, because they're not going to give you the 4-micron size source that you really need to get a physiologic effect in the body.
Let's look at the melatonin TR. The research by Dr. Pierre Pauli and others in Europe is pretty stunning in terms of preventing deterioration in the eyes, whether it's glaucoma or senile macular changes, or any other form of retinopathy, including lupus retinopathy. Melatonin is very important, and along with Vision Max. Let's talk about these for a moment.
Yeah, well, the technology in the melatonin is key. It's a time-release version, and there's really unlike anything I've seen in the market, because a lot of times you can just spike the blood with melatonin, and it can work to put you to sleep, but doesn't keep you asleep. And using it for the eye, that's something that's come available in the newer research. And so maybe you can talk about a little bit why you like to use that with eye issues.
What happens is that one of the most powerful antioxidants in the body is melatonin. There's a hydroxylation reaction that turns tryptophan into serotonin. Then one more hydroxylation turns into melatonin. It requires molybdenum, which you get in Minerals Plus, so we often add that. If you want to increase the absorption of Mineral Plus, you use indiamines. Melatonin TR is very important because it has 1 milligram fast release and 4 milligrams slow, so you get a sustained effects through the night. And then, of course, Cell Defense Plus, which is one of the most neuroprotective nutraceuticals you can take. So if you're a diabetic and you're worried about developing painful diabetic neuropathy or vasculopathy of the microcirculation and macrocirculation, the Cell Defense Plus is a new breakthrough version of that, along with the ellagic acid from the Terminella chibulia plant, 300 times higher than the pomegranate, which is a sacred plant. It protects and reverses DNA damage as well as intimal lining damage. and then Omega Supreme Krill, supplying the phospholipids to remyelinate the back of the eye and supply the antioxidants, the astaxanthin, to protect it, and then the cell detox glutathione. So this is a pretty comprehensive formula. And if people take it, they will notice a significant difference. Then, of course, if they have cataracts, I recommend the CanC eye drops, which we also carry. And we have delinking agents like carnosine delinker that delinks the cross-linked proteins in the body and Nutrimedical, because a lot of time we're dealing with either diabetes or a subclinical diabetes where there's hyperinsulinemia and hyperglucagonemia and hypercortisolemia, all tied directly to increased glycation. And they often have a moderately elevated or significantly elevated hemoglobin A1C, and that the eye condition, their blood sugar may not have taken off into a full-blown diabetic range. Although with the new standards now, there's a lot more people are being classified as pre-diabetic or diabetic. So UCLA a month ago released reports that 69% of adults over 30 are diabetic or pre-diabetic in California.
60%, wow.
69.
Oh, 69%.
Yeah.
I'd also like that. I'd recommend the Nutrimedical to the mix for that as well.
Yeah, the Nutrimedical is very important because you can. The hemoglobin A1C is only valid to test every 6 months, but if you measure fructosamine, fructose is cross-linked much faster, and it'll respond quicker. So if you're improving someone in 3 weeks, you can retest and they'll show a drop in their fructosamine levels. And they even have fructosamine meters that are available as well, but most people don't push it. They push the glucometer and look at blood sugar. But the problem is that diabetes is a free radical unless it results in hyperinsulinemia and hyperglucagonemia and hyperglycemia because of insulin resistance. But the primary problem is free radicals that stimulate what's called leukotriene B4. In fact, we're going to try to bring the researchers on from the University of California, San Diego, that did a knockout mice research and published it last February 2015 that proved that the primary lesion that causes let's look at our next protocol. Let's see. By the way, one of the things I tell people to do is make sure you've signed up or have your email in their database if you need, even if you're doing phone-in orders, because you'll receive, even if you don't like emailing, you'll get an email back from us and any newsletters or important reports. I get some of the most horrendous cases of people that are on all kinds of polypharmacy for their how can I say it, for their health care. You know, drugs that just are out of sight, amiodarone, furosemide, glipizide, carvedilol. Many of these drugs have lots of warnings. Some of them, like amiodarone, have what's I call double black box warnings, like take this at your own risk, It's like being a sword swallower, By the way, this might cut your throat. That kind of thing.
What are those for? What kind of drug? What is it for?
It's an antiarrhythmic drug. Antiarrhythmic drug, yeah. We talked about athletic performance, too, and we did a little bit last week, but I want to cover this again. It's a real big issue, and it's very common that people want to increase their athletic performance. What people should start to understand is that when you're trying to improve performance, the first thing you need is electrolytes. So the Sports Energy Light, very, very powerful, Cardiovasc, and then, of course, you're trying to release growth hormone. We use our microdose. What I tell people, the primary things you're trying to do is increase mitochondrial energy, make sure that you protect your energetic production, your mitochondria, but you also block free radicals and maintain electrolytes. Because especially if people have endurance athletics like cycling, running, things like that, they can really screw up their electrolytes and they can develop pretty high levels of free radicals. Lactic acidosis is only one of the many things that happens. The additional ones I'd add would be NADH energy, mitochondrial catalyst, and uridine. But let's concentrate on the ones that I'd like to talk about right now. VascuCare, CoQ10 Supreme Ubiquinol, the water-soluble one, and the CoQ10 Supreme. We have the only CoQ10, this is important for people to understand this, that is non-polymerizing or won't crystallize. When I used to have a compounded 25, 30 years ago at our compounding pharmacies, it has its biological action drops to almost zero in 1 month, unless you have a non-polymerizing form. So we'd have to make it fresh, and people would have to use it within 2 to 3 weeks. Otherwise, by the end of the month, they'd have about 5% of its biological action. Our CoQ10 maintains its action because we have a polymerizing, blocking formulation that is unique. We also have the most highly absorbed and powerful CoQ10 ubiquinol, which will protect your brain and your mitochondria inside your astrocytes. Most people don't realize an astrocyte or brain cell can have 500,000 mitochondria. And then, of course, we have the magnesium glycinate malate, because hypomagnesemia and hypokalemia, which is potassium, are a big deal. The best way to get potassium is magnesium potassium citrate, and the best for magnesium is magnesium glycinate malate. And for protecting the nervous system is brain mag, which is 3 and 8 magnesium, as well as magnesium glycinate malate. And that formula, by the way, also has some tauric acid as well, magnesium taurate. So let's talk about the CoQ10 just for a minute, because I think it's important. People should realize if you're trying to maintain performance, you need the carnitine, which my favorite one is the VascuCare. The other slow-release ones for the bowel is IBS Care. It's a propionyl carnitine, but the CoQ10 is really essential, especially if people have been snookered by their doctor to take a statin drug. It will deplete your CoQ10, and it can permanently damage your mitochondria and produce a long-term mitochondriopathy of your muscles of your body and also of your brain. And it's not unusual to see people develop mitochondriopathy after, say, Lyme disease or other problems, and it doesn't recover because the doctor has no clue that the problem is there or how to reverse it. So what do you think?
What would you do about treating Lyme? That's pretty common now, especially in the Northeast and the upper Northwest.
Well, first I called triple threat, Nutrimedical or monoatomic iodine. By the way, there's lots of yahoos out there flogging their iodine thinking it's equivalent. Firstly, we have the only high-energy monoatomic Tesla-activated plasma form, which is a superconductor. Iodine that's universal pathogen killer, universal detoxer of halides, chloride, bromide, and fluoride, and a universal mitochondrial resurrector, so it actually increases production of new mitochondria and catalyzes the 5' deiodinase to activate T4 to T3, which is 3,000 times more avidly attached to the crystal galli of mitochondria. So Nutrimedical, and then we have Allicin Med, which is 200 milligrams more than the Alamed, at about half the price from our German source, and that's one of our Nutrimeds. And we have Silver 100. Then beyond that, I have NutriDefense, which blocks RNA and DNA viruses, boosts the natural killer cells, and stops the Fenton reaction for pathogen entry into tissues. And then we use things to reverse the cytokines. Nutritrella, Cell Detox Glutathione, Cell Defense Plus, which is a curcumin with this new technology that's probably one of the most stunning nutraceuticals we have. It's right up there with some of our really top ones like NutriDefense and Nutridine. And then we try to restore neurotransmitter levels, and that means Minerals Plus, Mood Elevator, which is our Posinol, BioLVR, and of course we may need to use Smethil. Someone's really stubborn and their mood isn't coming back because of neurotransmitters in their boots. But the Minerals Plus has molybdenum, which is necessary for the tryptase and pyrrolase enzymes to reverse it. So when you have Lyme, you've got elevated cytokine or pyrogen levels, elevated levels of free radicals, and you've got disturbed levels of neurotransmitters, and you can even get what we call patchy dysmyelination and central and peripheral neuropathy. So if you don't reverse all those, you're not going to get someone better. The conventional doctors are completely lost how to reverse this, even the ones that give conventional antibiotics like minocycline or tetracycline for months. So stay right there, Clay. We will have one more quick segment for a few minutes, and we'll see you then next week. But stay back for the last segment for about 5 minutes. Before the break, I'm going to go over specifically Lyme disease because it's very common now. By the way, when I often am treating people, I'm also treating all their pets, because what we're finding is that the Lyme affects not only the mother but the child as well, because he may even pass it on in utero. And all their pets have got Lyme, and it's even proven with blood tests. Isn't that crazy? Now, the test to do is an eye-spot Lyme test that measures IFN gamma, which activates your T lymphocytes, so it means you get an active disease. If you go to the immunosciences test, it'll measure antibodies against ehrlichiosis, babesiosis, and Lyme, and there's 34 subtypes in North America and North Europe. What I like the QRMA test because it's a very quick and dirty test. It tells me which organ system, if it's working or not. But if you want the conventional immunological ones, the one I recommend is the iSpot Lyme. Now, we use Nutridine, 20 drops 3 times a day, Allicin Med, 2 caps 3 times a day, Silver 100, 2 sprays per 10 pounds body weight, NutriDefense, 2 capsules 3 times a day, Cell Defense Plus, 2 capsules 3 times a day. And by the way, you can open these capsules, and make it be a barista. Mix up enough, say, for a week in a little container, keep it in the fridge, take a little measured teaspoon or a little measuring spoon, put it in your blender with, say, Ageless Life Support, maybe Glycemix or the NutriComplete, and blend it up each day or for a couple days, and just take it out 3 or 4 times a day and you're all set. So when people say, well, I can't swallow those pills, don't. Make up a blended drink. And then, of course, we have Brain Mag Calm Mind, because the CNS is on fire. A lot of people with Lyme disease, they have BOF, brain on fire syndrome, which is showing up in younger children as autism, and in elderly people, what I call presenile dementia. Even in your 40s, you can't multitask, and you're stressed out, like that song by 21 Pilots. Now I'm stressed out, when the mama used to say, now I got to get up and make money. Well, guess what? People are stressed out in every way, which is why this election cycle, not just in America, but around the world, people are getting totally ticked with this so-called satanic power system that's going on. So we had things to turn off the BOF with Cognition Plus, Brain Power, which has been vinpocetine, ultrathymine B1, cell detox glutathione, Nutritrala, Inflamex, Cell Defense Plus, Mountain Red Velvet to rebuild the tissues, and myelination, along with Omega Supreme Krill, has the phospholipids. You can also add Neurogen, which is docosahexaenoic acid, because you can't remyelinate without DHA. Micelle D3, Myco D2 to boost the immune system back to normal and rebalance the TH1 to TH2 cytokines, and then Collagen Max, because all organ systems are built on a collagen matrix, which is the biophoton superhighway to rebuild all your organs. So everything is literally coded in your DNA to create what's called a collagen matrix, and there's 29 different subtypes throughout your body that are the superstructure that actually dictates the stem cells how to differentiate. Pretty cool. So there's modulating peptides and so on, but the basic building structure is the larger part of your DNA is actually coding how to build a superstructure to actually differentiate the proteins and cells into different organs. So there's only 7% of your DNA actually codes for alleles, for enzymes, and structural proteins. The rest is the architectural diagram how to build you. Cool, hey?
Fascinating, yeah.
Let's see now. Let me get another one here. And by the way, you're not going to get this from your average naturopath, chiropractor, or even functional medicine doctor. I'm the quote, leading teacher in the Academy of Anti-Aging Environmental Medicine. And some of the stuff that I'm doing is literally decades ahead of any of my colleagues. So you need to know when I present my paper this November on the biophoton theory of aging, I'm going to be presenting things like quantum energy transfer equations and other things like oscilloscopy of the Russian version of the Metatron machine, in terms of how you apply quantum mechanics and to the solid living matter, which is pretty advanced. I mean, I'm basing research on standing on the shoulders of people like Dr. Nesterov in Russia, but I've advanced it even further. We're looking at things like clot-busting things. I like to talk about nattokinase, again, vein-away, ellagic acid, Omega Supreme Krill, and things like even ultrathymine B1. Most people don't realize if you've got a deficiency of vitamin B6 and B1 and methylation pathways like folic acids, that's why we tell people if you're pregnant as a mother, you should start on superfolate and bio-LVR. And if you have a polymorphism of vitamin B6, B1, you have a tremendously increased risk of turning diabetic, because they are very important for supporting the production of tetrahydrobiopterin and superoxide dismutase to stop the free radicals that trigger off diabetes and prediabetes, which is obesity. That's why I call it diobesity. Anybody who's obese is a pre-diabetic, without exception. Interesting, eh?
Yeah.
Everyone, not a person on earth. If you're overweight even 10 or 20 pounds, you're on your way to diobesity. One of the things that you just mentioned, and we'll talk about as an individual, I had an individual not long ago actually consult me, and he had a catastrophic spinal injury. And he was in horrible pain. Of course, most people don't realize that the conventional doctors will just give you either pain pills. Once in a while, you get referred, and about 25% will qualify for a transforaminal nerve block or an interventional spinal pump to put in a medications actually to try to turn off the pain. If you actually draw the fluid around the dural foramen, you'll find that people and animals that have pain have increased levels of cytokines in the dural nerve sleeve region, of especially tumor necrosis factor alpha, a slow reactive substance of anaphylaxis, and IFN gamma. Those three are significantly elevated. when you map out pain, you find out, and I'm going to be putting together an ebook and a video on this because I've discovered that I was hoping other doctors would co-discover some of the things that I found, but they haven't over the last 30 years. My patents go back to my Dynatens, which is a morphogenic field machine that I developed, and it didn't have the millions of dollars to actually start manufacturing it, but I know how to turn off pain. We have some technologies now that are pretty good, like our micropulse and lumen photon, that are in training the tissues. The other thing that's available now, we have our nutraceuticals like tendon mender and joint performance that work not only in people but also in animals. But we also have things like our curcumin plus, cell defense plus it's called, and Inflamex. And a lot of people don't realize it's not even so much structural changes that occur a lot of time if you've got a normal CT but you got a terrible pain. But even if you've got terrible anatomy, you may not have pain if there's no cytokines. And these nutraceuticals will alter that. We also have technologies such as peptides now from Dr. Kavinson at the Russian Academy of Sciences in St. Petersburg, and other technologies that are peptides that alter DNA to stimulate tissues to regenerate, like stem cell support. And we even have stem cell transplants with one of my colleagues who was on the IRB panel, Dr. Chris Centeno, who has Regenerex at the Grand Cayman Islands from his clinic in Broomfield, Colorado, north of Denver. And he takes your stem cells out and can give them back to you in 2 weeks after you're on vacation and inject them in the spine or a neural frame and regenerate your spine and your discs, and it gets all better. So there's lots of things you can do for people that are a mess. In other words, when the conventional doctors say, well, we're going to give you pain pills and say gabapentin to turn off your ability of your brain to receive the pain signal, they turn you into a zombie. And this, by the way, includes also the veterinarians who don't approach pain as a nonlinear information processing problem, which I did when I did research on surface EMG and electromyography and later scanning A delta and C fibers with Dr. Jim Hitchcock. So my theory of pain is considerably different from all other doctors, including the neural specialists in neuroscience and the neurophysiologists, which have missed the boat. Same way they've missed the boat on what cancer is, which is why if you don't identify the problem, whether it's geopolitical or medical, you're never going to find the solution. Which is why we get somebody brilliant like Donald Trump. The first thing, even if he doesn't have all the right solutions yet, hopefully he'll surround himself with the right experts, because he's definitely identified the problems. So we have solutions for virtually every health issue you can imagine, not only for yourself, but believe it or not, I'm treating, with a lot of the people we help, I'm treating their pets too. Budgie birds, dogs, cats, and horses, believe it or not. If an animal barks, tweets, or whatever, we have protocols that'll help them get better. And we have nutraceuticals that'll help as well. Pretty cool, hey?
Yeah.
So the next area is the area of blood viscosity and clots. A lot of people don't understand that clots, I would like to say a big flashing 12-foot high letters, clots kill. And clots can be the thing that starts a plaque that eventually calcified. It can be an embolus, which means it shoots down the artery once it breaks away or propagates. The first thing we tell people to take is Cardiovasc. Then, of course, I like Omega Supreme Krill. Omega Supreme, which, by the way, if you just take Omega Supreme alone and Omega Supreme Krill, I like to say with a little Omega Supreme Krill capsules, soft gels, take 2 and call me in a century, because it's going to slow the aging process dramatically, just that alone. And then, of course, we have nattokinase and magnesium, because most heart disease is a magnesium-deficient disease, and also related to the loss of ability to make the nitric oxide in your blood vessel wall, so your blood vessels pump your blood, and you prevent calcification of your arteries when you have adequate magnesium. And then we have, of course, have Vein-Away that protects the blood vessel wall along with ellagic acid. So let's talk about this for a minute. Clots. We got the omega fatty acids, which change the blood viscosity dramatically, which is why they tell you if you're taking a fish oil, stop it a few days before major surgery. Along with, of course, our Cardiovasc. We have things to stop the hydroperoxy radical like gamma A plus with tocotrienols. And we have nattokinase developed by Dr. Sumi in Japan and Dr. Holsworth here in America that I've had on my show for years. We also can bump it up if we need to lumbrokinase, and we have a source that we bring in from the University in Beijing, China, which is a high-quality source that's certified and retested here in America. Let's talk about these for a minute. Omega Supreme Krill, Omega Supreme, nattokinase, magnesium, and Vein-Away. The way to test it, you can test with a QRMA machine. It's the best way to test this every week. You don't have to repay for it. You just test it, and it'll tell your blood viscosity and your heart parameters because it looks at your biophoton signature of your heart and blood vessel function. If you want a concrete test, you can do a test called Realogics, and you can do what we call the advanced blood testing with your doctor, measuring not only a PT and INR and platelets and fiber degradation products, but anti-Leiden antibody, soluble ICAM 1 and 2, and other clotting factors that will determine, like C-reactive protein and things that's more accurate called PI1, plasminogen activator inhibitor 1. And a lot of people don't realize how many people have a polymorphism of their DNA, so they're increasing risk of vascular damage. And if you have high levels of antibodies, it makes your red cells clump, so it causes an increase in non-Newtonian fluid dynamic viscosity of your blood, which I had a digital laser viscometer in my office, so I had referrals from doctors and specialists, including hematologists, that wanted me to do a viscometry on them. Their patients, and you'd find that the typical test missed this completely. And by the way, your blood viscosity determines if you're going to die of a stroke, heart attack, or deep vein thrombosis. And if you don't fix that problem, no matter how many pills you pop into a person, it's not going to make them better, but our nutraceuticals will fix it. So, and you can validate that. If you want to do a Realogic test in your blood off through a Realogics lab, if you want to contact me, I'll give you a connection. So everything that I say, I can validate with specific testing. So it's not just hoo-ha if somebody trying to market a pill or a vitamin saying, hey, take this and you'll be zippity-doo-dah. No, you take this, and then if you are still skeptical, and I tell people keep their skepticals on, I can tell you the tests to do to validate for you, your doctor, and your cardiologist that by and large most, and this is not meant to be an insult, it's meant to be a teaching point, most people are uninformed about the real nature of the cause of disease or how to fix it. And that includes most doctors, unfortunately. Disturbing, isn't it?
Yes, it sure is.
So let's go over Omega Supreme Krill, Omega Supreme, and nattokinase. Those are great. And maybe we can get down to magnesium, because clots are killing people like crazy. And as the population ages, and they're all turning diabetic, all having hyperviscometry disorders, aggravated by mineral deficiencies, pro-inflammatory fatty acids in their diet, and exposure to pro-inflammatory electromagnetic ionizing waves that cause polarization of tissues like smart meters and Wi-Fi networks. And the polarization increases the levels of free radicals and increased viscosity and increases cross-linking of proteins, as well as oxidizing cholesterol and fatty acids, which screw you up. Yeah. And people say, well, you can't measure that, Dr. Deagle. Said, wrong, doctor. Yes, I can measure it. So you can even do scanning electron microscopy and so show the neuropores closing from electromagnetic radiation and measured oxidized 8-hydroxy-2'-deoxyguanosine levels, and you'll see under stress that they are oxidizing even their guanosine residue of their DNA. So when people say, you can't measure, I said, wrongo. You can construct a model to measure anything.
Yeah. Like you were talking about, Dr. Bell, the essential fatty acids are really such an important point, being as we've got to build all of our cell structures properly. And, one of those dynamic oils, too, that often gets overlooked would be something like Nutrifos, where you're looking at the components of phosphatidylcholine, which can represent anywhere to 50 to 70% of cell membrane. And as people age, that cell membrane loses its phosphocholine levels and becomes much more stiff and rigid and not doing the job like it should. And so that's also the argument where people would use essential fatty acids from fish, the omega-3s, like the Omega Supreme oil, because you've got to make sure that you keep the fluidity of the cells, and so that they function like they should. And if they happen to be circulating as red blood cells, that they're not going to clump up and cause challenges, as you're saying, with clotting issues.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we got to get back to that basics. Omega Supreme Krill. Not all krills are created equal. We talk about this all the time with different qualities of the products that people have to choose in the marketplace. But krill is one of those things that's the most popular one in the country. People will buy, and it's got very little protection with its astaxanthin content. Generally speaking, it has virtually zero.
Yeah. You're talking about the Omega Reds, which is 117 micrograms versus 2,000 in our Omega Supreme Krill. That's a big difference. almost 20
Actually,
times.
it's not even 117. On label, it's 17, not even 117.
Oh, you're saying 17? Okay, take the 100 off it, right? So
and
17.
That's at time of manufacture, and so that means most likely it has virtually nothing when it reaches any of the patients.
What I heard is
a product that would assure you have that level, as you're saying, per capsule, at time of expiration, which is, again, the difference of what you're looking at in the Nutrimedical line of products versus what people often have access to.
We looked for several years to find the only manufacturer on Earth that does low temperature processing so it doesn't destroy the astaxanthin. Every other manufacturer destroys the astaxanthin, which is, aside from the anhydrous catechin in our NutriDefense, which is a polyphenol, it's the most powerful antioxidant on the planet, right up there with goji berries and polyphenol. And it's amazing protectant for the brain and blood vessel walls. As I say, if you start taking this in adequate levels of intracellular and tissue magnesium, and you take gamma E plus to block the nitroperoxy radical and Nutritrol cell detox glutathione and things to remodulate cell healing regeneration with Cell Defense Plus, you're even if you're pre-diabetic or whatever, you're not going to have the same timeline of disease develop or clots. So if you've already had a clot, you have a hyperviscous condition, you've got a target on your back, and you're going to die if you just submit yourself to regular allopathic medicine only. And they'll probably put you on a stupid drug like Xarelto, which has got giant lawsuits over it because it kills people, or Eliquis, or Coumadin, or post-op they'll give you Lovenox injections. And you have to understand, a lot of these require blood testing, and they can vary dramatically on your diet. And if you do the wrong thing, you can bleed out. So, especially with Xarelto, it's a very dangerous drug, very, very dangerous. And there's, as I say, it becomes serious when you got all these attorneys, but they also happen to be a subspecialist hematologist as well as a JD. Then you got a problem, Houston, because they're going to find these drug companies out. And when the relatives of somebody that bleed out on Xarelto go crazy, so these drug companies just consider it a cost of business to kill you. Okay? Hard as that is to take, that's why Obamacare doesn't fix what we call the pharmaceutical dominance of the healthcare profession. Doesn't mean there aren't some place for some drugs, but it's a very small place. Right? So,
right, absolutely.
So, Ryan, let's touch on some other interesting protocols, because autism is a biggie. I call it brain on fire in children. And I usually like to make a smoothie up with ageless life support. Cognition Plus, Brain Power, Calm Mind, Brain Mag, Cell Detox, Glutathione, Ultrathymine B1. And there are things to support acetylcholine, which includes the Ultrathymine B1, uridine monophosphate, CDB-choline, and again, the brain myelination, the Omega Supreme Krill, and Neurogen. If you look at all these kiddies, you do a T1 weighted MRI scan looking for myelination, just like you do a bone age. If you want to see if a child's got developmental delay, you can see myelination delay in children, say, with Down syndrome or some genetic disorder or abuse or malnutrition, and you'll see that these children don't have proper myelination. So the reason why they can't learn is because they actually can't connect different parts of their cortex and their pacer nuclei in the base of their brain and the hippocampus. So we shouldn't be surprised. It's like saying to somebody, I know when you put the pedal to the floor, it won't go 100 miles an hour because it's not designed for that. And if you don't fix those pathways and the myelination, you can't expect the child to learn who's got delays because you haven't supported their biochemistry to remyelinate or to develop those areas of the brain. It's not possible. Interesting, hey? So let's go over a couple of these. Calm Mind Brain Mag for kids, Brain Power, Cognition Plus, Ultrathymine B1. These are amazing. When you start giving these to children, then if you want to augment, I would recommend mild hyperbaric oxygen with ozone and transcranial therapies like lumen photon and micropulse. But all you have to do many times is start these formulas alone, and you'll see dramatic improvement in kids where they start speaking in sentences, they stop being hyperactive or very docile, and we call a pane of glass where they're just not with you. And they'll all of a sudden say, I love you, Mommy, and then they'll start kind of paying attention to learn things and coloring and doing other things. So you take a child that's basically functionally destroyed, and you can start seeing improvement within days and weeks. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you can't do that with regular drugs.
That's exciting.
Yeah, you can't do that. If you get a child with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which is part of the spectrum, you can make them less hyperactive by stimulating the area 2 cells of the reticular activating system what's called a cellular gigantocellularis reticular system, with drugs like Cylert, Pemoline, and Adderall, which, by the way, they sell in the kids' school as an alternative to lines of crack or cocaine. It's terrible, isn't it, that we have kids on the same equivalent drug as lines of cocaine, then we wonder why kids end up on cocaine later when they can't get their Cylert, Pemoline, or Adderall. Duh. It's pretty crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I call it stupid on steroids. How's that? Gotta make you laugh a little bit, hey? Even otherwise you'd have to cry. Let's talk about panic disorder. Again, Calm Mind and Brain Mag, Posonol Mood Elevator, Magnesium Glycinate, things to improve, neural functioning like BioLVR and our thing called Mood Elevator or Posonol. Let's talk about the anxiety attacks. Calm Mind Brain Mag are amazing, and along our Mood Elevator adaptogen, and Magnesium Glycinate Malate on the side is from that for total body magnesium. But a lot of people don't realize that these can respond within a few days of starting the Calm Mind and Brain Mag, and you can fully get over it within a few months without use of any drugs at all. You don't need to be on benzodiazepines or become an alky or whatever. You can just simply take our nutraceuticals, and it's better than booze, faster than booze, and doesn't make you stupid. We can directly improve people with panic disorder really quickly, too, and they don't need to take days and weeks. Calm Mind and Brain Mag, 1 to 2 scoops 4 times a day. Amazing. Mood Elevator, Posonol. By the way, you have to get adequate sleep, which means melatonin and TR. Because a lot of times people are panicking during the day because they haven't had adequate sleep at night, and no stage 4 sleep or muscle relaxation, where you get stage 4 relaxation or rapid eye movement sleep. They also may not be making neurotransmitters that maintain their brain function, so BioLVR is the first step, and Minerals Plus that supplies the minerals like molybdenum is necessary to make the tryptase and pyrrolase enzymes that convert amino acids to neurotransmitters. So there's lots of things we can do that can pull people out of this, and they're very effective because everything, you got to think of every cell in your body, your 15 trillion cells, are little envelopes of cell membrane surrounding a nucleolus, which is like a central processing system or computer, and every cell membrane is a liquid crystal microprocessor, what's called stochastic neural network, non-linear processing thing for processing, I call terabytes of information per picosecond, all across your body. People don't realize that every cell in your body is a quantum computer. Isn't that interesting? And it communicates with the DNA and your cell enzymes, turning some genes on and off. And if you simply provide the nutrients, a lot of time the body will just fix itself in a matter of hours and days. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, the body is so remarkable.
Well, it's miraculous, and it's not just a physical body. We have also a spirit body. I want to talk about this more in hour number 3 with David John Oates when we get into our discussions with David about some, part of that 90% I usually don't talk about, but I'm going to get into some things so you better keep your thinking cap on for hour 3, or as I say, have your tray table in the locked and upright position and your seatbelt on, because I'm going to take you places you've never been before. Let's see, the next thing is cholesterol. It's so simple. Take Omega Cod Liver Liquid. You want to stop elevated triglycerides, Neovasc. Let's talk about those for a minute, because your cholesterol is wherever it has to be. I mean, if it's a little slightly elevated, it's because it's the best patch for damaged endothelial lining of your blood vessels, and your body will make more cholesterol if it needs it, because 2/3 of the dry weight of your brain is converted forms of cholesterol, including gangliosides and cerebrosides that make up the myelin sheath and the oligodendrocytes, and the structural proteins of your brain. The structural membranes of your brain are made from cholesterol. Interesting, hey? 2/3. So when people go on statins, I call it you may have a statin-induced dementia, like Dr. Graveline from NASA. About 4 years ago, we had him on the show, and within 3 months, he was a NASA scientist, MD, and he got transient global amnesia and actually couldn't recognize his wife until they got him off the meds and realized, I've been poisoned. No wonder my brain is dysmyelinating, and I got BAF, or brain on fire, and I can't make neural connections, so bye-bye brain. So if your dumb doctor's got a statin drug, for God's sake, tell them off, because they need to be told off. And the ultimate weapon is this. Say that he'll send you some literature on cholesterol and statin drugs. And the ultimate weapon is ask them what time, and phone number or email Dr. Deagle can contact them. Because I'm not afraid of talking to anybody. And believe me, when I'm finished with them, it's not funny. So we'll be back in a minute with hour number 2. Ryan will be here for the first half, and then coming up in hour 3, David John Oates and reverse speech, and we're going to have a call in from Jim Guerci on some research we've been doing on the. And again, this coming Sunday is Pentecost Sunday, and we're going to talk about the tie-in with that. You don't want to miss hour 3. It's coming up.